So, Tyson Fury, you done Deontay. You've dropped a few kilos, practiced a few moves you got off Muhammad Ali, so they say you're the best in the world. And like Tiger Woods, you've got a story of disgrace, depression, courage and redemption that'll probably become a Hollywood movie. But when you come out with stuff like you're going to celebrate your win with cocaine and hookers, and that the best place for a woman is on her back, I say, hang about. Is this the sort of bloke we should be honouring with knighthoods? After all, being good with your fists doesn't necessarily make you a great role model. So what's the rule here? Should we say, arise, Sir Geoffrey Boycott, we can forget that conviction for assault, it's been so long, here's your gong? Or take Ben Stokes, OBE this week, we can forgive and forget what happens off the pitch as long as you're a winner on it. Some understandably think the Gypsy King should face eternal shame. But I believe that where there's contrition, there can be redemption. Even for a big tub of lard like you, Tyson. Just mind your manners, or I'll send Ferrari round.
Brilliant result for him and for the country. Delighted for him. And I think you've touched on actually one of the most interesting aspects possibly of the whole week, because who is the judge and or the jury who decides? In someone like Boycott's case, remember, he's always denied that ever took place, but he went on and he indeed got that. But for every Tyson Fury who appears to have been forgiven, and we now say, there's a Danny Baker, the broadcaster, from whom we most likely will never hear again. He's now been sanctioned and out, and in the court of public opinion, he's deemed a non-person. And I think it's very, very dangerous. If there are criminal aspects, then it moves to a different level. But I actually, before I yield, I celebrated his victory, and I celebrated the fact that he's been redeemed, because I think we are very, very dangerous. We're in a place now where people say things which are inexcusable. They subsequently apologise. I think we need more tolerance of that intolerance.
Yeah, I'm with that. And I feel uncomfortable about a guy who has said these things and defended them when he said them 4 or 5 years ago, sure. Particularly the thing about women in the kitchen and all of that. And he made up a story, it's all about his wife. I feel uncomfortable, but what you have to say is that the guy since then has appeared to be contrite. And there's a point at which you have to say, honestly, you can't hold things against people forever. Now, there are some places where I don't know if that rule will ever apply. Prince Andrew. I am almost certain Harvey Weinstein can never be rehabilitated.
Yes.
I think the interesting thing and the important thing now...
Does that not speak to my criminal conviction aspect, though, briefly,
well,
Trevor?
Actually, even if he hadn't been convicted, I suspect he would never, ever be able to show his face in polite society. I think the point is we need to have some rules of understanding about this, because otherwise, what now happened, what I worry about is that we end up with the rule of the mob or the rule of the tabloids, and people who may have made some mistake just get blanked for the rest of their lives simply because the editor of a newspaper doesn't like them. Yeah. Rachel.
I think we're moving to a culture where people are judged, and this is particularly scary for all of us, not on their deeds but on their words. And we've seen the rise of cancel culture, and offence archaeology, whereby whatever you've said going back your entire career can be used against you to eliminate you, really, from your job or from public life, as we saw from Danny Baker. And I genuinely think, I mean, I don't want to be an offence archaeologist myself and say, when did Tyson Fury say that and when did he apologise? Because I genuinely think we have to celebrate Tyson Fury's achievements, and he's just not in the same category as Harvey Weinstein or Roman Polanski, or someone who's actually admitted to a crime and been, in Roman Polanski's case, convicted of the crime. I just don't think that we can discount Tyson Fury's incredible achievements because he is a testosterone-fueled athlete. I mean, we watch the rugby and we see the England team fighting another team in the Six Nations. You know, they come to fisticuffs on the pitch, and we all realise that men are pumped up. They become very aggressive in the heat of the moment. And that actually bleeds into the things they say. You know, think of Muhammad Ali, who you mentioned.
Just on a point of fact, because Weinstein always denied, just to say that, whereas, of course, the others accepted.
Well, hold on, he's just been convicted.
No, I know, but we just have to say he did deny.
So can we just hear from somebody who speaks up for Tyson Fury?
He's come back from, as I say, obesity, huge obesity, mental health issues. You know, he's a triumph for being fit and fighting, using his fighting spirit to overcome his human frailty, if you like. The desire is to be the #1 in the world, and he really has become that, cemented his position.
There was boxing commentator Gareth Davies, who was in the Tyson Fury corner after the Las Vegas fight.
Yeah, but you see what? I'll let you in a second, Michelle. But why I feel uneasy about this, though I'm for redemption, is that I worry about people being given redemption because they're winners. You know, what you can't have is a situation where somebody does something really morally reprehensible. It may not be unlawful, but morally reprehensible. But 2 years later, we forget all of that because they have won some competition. Being the best batsman or the sprinter or whatever it is doesn't make up for being an A-class.
No, I'm with you there.
But I think that's a little bit unfair. I think, you know, this whole notion of role model. Tyson Fury is a sportsman and an incredibly good sportsman who will go down in history, I'm absolutely sure of it. But then what we do in society is, because someone is, in this case, fantastic sportsman, we then hold them up as a role model, and to call him a I think that's a little bit unfair.
I didn't say he was a but I'm just saying let's not make being able to win at games get out of jail free card for objectionable and unacceptable moral behaviour.
But my point is that some of the views that he expresses, he's quite a religious person. He's also from a particular culture, which differs very much certainly from mine. And he has a viewpoint and an outlook, one which I disagree with. I don't share a lot of his values or a lot of their traditions or sentiments and belief system. But does that make him a bad person? Because I'm particularly in favour of free speech. I might not like what you say. I might even be offended, like some of the comments that he says about a woman. My place, I do not believe, is in the kitchen and on my back. I don't describe to that notion at all. I find it a bit offensive. But he's allowed to have that view, if indeed that's his view, and we should be allowed to disagree with him. We don't have to cancel him and be, I don't know, so critical of him. I admire him as a sportsman, but I disagree with some of his views, but I respect his right to hold them.
But should we honour him, Rachel?
I think it goes a little bit beyond his right to say things, which obviously he does have. I mean, we're looking at somebody who, I mean, his talent and his skill is not in dispute, but we're not just talking about his sporting achievements. We're talking about somebody who is now being held up as a role model. He's a personality. And in that context, you know, I do believe in remedial power. I do think people have a right. Look, we're all capable of, you know, saying clumsy things or being thoughtless or being careless. But there is something about acknowledgement of that taking place, which I do not see with Tyson Fury. And I would like to remind you that these comments that he's made, it's not just a difference of opinion. These are homophobic, sexist, anti-Semitic comments made by somebody who is in public life and will have an impact on those communities, on those people, especially and in particular people who are thinking about getting into sport and will think it's not a safe environment for them.
All right, I can just take it away from the blue corner, briefly if I can there. Just to remind everybody, of course, Ben Stokes was never convicted of anything. Is there a dynamic here because of Tyson Fury's background? Let's see what he writes in Behind the Mask, my autobiography. I was aware of racism against travellers. This made me an outsider. So I felt that for me to get the attention I needed to be an attraction in the sport, I had to play the outlaw. I felt I had to act out a role to seek publicity. And to do that, I had to be controversial and shock people with how I talked. To some degree, it worked. But playing the role got to the point where I didn't know what was real and what was the act. Rachel, I think he is, as Rachel on my right said, if he does have a parade through Morecambe and there is a statue put up to him because of his... He's then a role model, isn't he? Which is what they're talking about. Is that appropriate for him?
Well, there are, I mean, as we've discussed before on The Pledge, there are countless statues of people in public life who have subsequently been shown to have done reprehensible
but would
things.
you do it if you knew? Does he
would I
deserve
put
a
up a statue? I don't think I would. I think what Rachel was saying was interesting because I think the context of that is he's been nominated for Sports Personality of the Year, Spotty. And therefore, you know, we have to consider whether you have to consider him in the round as a person, as a personality, as well as a sporting hero. And I think that does raise a question.
And indeed,
yeah.
look at if we look at the odds, Tyson Fury right now is the favourite for sports personality of the year. And when we say sports personality, we're not just saying best person at doing their sport. We're saying this is a person that we as a nation want to honour. And I feel really quite uneasy without some really major level of contrition, honouring somebody as sport personality as opposed to sports, sports practitioner of the year.